Welcome to this week's Inner Gardening Workshop. So this week we are considering the theme of isolation and loneliness. And being isolated at home over these last weeks and months has been an experience that we've all shared. And yet it's been very different for everyone. For some it meant being isolated as a family, others were together as a couple or perhaps being with a friend, and some people have been completely by themselves during this time and not meeting or seeing people that are normally in our circle. So many people have really struggled with loneliness, and not just those who live alone. And so it seems that the experience of loneliness is a very significant one in our time. And as you know, we've even got a minister now for loneliness. So even in social and political circles, loneliness is acknowledged as a significant struggle that really belongs to our age and affects people of all ages, young and old alike. So what is this experience of loneliness? So when I feel lonely, I feel very conscious of my separation, and I put all my focus on my separateness from others and from the world. And I think it's also important to recognize that loneliness is an experience that has not necessarily to do with me being by myself, because there are times when I can feel more lonely with others than when I'm alone. So it's an inner experience that has more to do with me, perhaps, than with others. I know that when I feel lonely, I know that I've lost my connection with my sense of my deeper self. And because in my deeper self, I know that I'm connected to all of life and to everyone. But that connection, from time to time, gets lost or severed. So this week's workshop is called Alone in My Garden. And I really like the title of this week's workshop because in considering the origin of this word, alone, I discovered some time ago that it derives from all one, which for me gave it a completely different meaning. And much depends on how I feel about being just one. If I consider it as being just half of two or just a fragment of a greater number. So this is where I have a choice. And I think with everything it's really important to know that the way we look at things is the most powerful force in shaping our lives. So the perspective that I choose really determines my life experience. So yes, I can think of one as a low number, maybe just a fragment of other numbers. It's better to have 2 pounds maybe than to have one. Or I can see one as a picture of wholeness, of unity, of my individuality, because there's only one of each of us. So to be alone, to be all one, for me is a call to grow myself into a more rounded person, to be more whole, and any effort that I make in that way will contribute to this endeavor. And given that loneliness is such a widespread, shared experience, I wonder what new perspectives on loneliness we could take. So, and what if the experience of loneliness is a really important and necessary one for us as individuals? And what is this pain of loneliness? And what is it that I really long for when I have this inner experience of separation? And I found a quote by Rudolf Steiner that I'd like to share with you. And it says, "The impulses of the consciousness soul tend toward isolation. Nevertheless, it is exactly this inner solitude of contemporary human beings that awakens a great longing for community. It gives rise to community most significantly when through the cooperation and unified efforts of many, something higher can take shape. I really feel inspired by this quote because it shows that out of this pain of loneliness, a counter picture of completely new kinds of communities can arise, and also new values are in embryonic form in this place of loneliness. And I think we've seen a lot of this happening in these last weeks, this sense of community, of shared experience, and people really stepping up to new values and new ways of being together. So the feeling of loneliness then is a call to extend myself and to expand my experience of myself and grow my awareness of my interconnectedness with others and with life. So as I begin to experience myself as being connected and supported by all of life, my loneliness can be transformed into aloneness, all oneness. And so the more I feel whole within myself, and the more this experience deepens, I can feel myself more in harmony and unity with all of life. And the more I can begin to appreciate this journey towards solitude. So solitude contains the word sol, which, as you know, is the Latin word for the sun, and in ancient times was the name for the Roman sun god. And this takes me right back to my inner sun, this heart space that can become my inner home. And solitude is really a homecoming to our deepest belonging, which is in my heart center. And I can generate there in this space all that I need for my homecoming, which is gentleness, compassion, kindness, and love. So, what is the task in hand this week? So, I think the task that we can try and work with this week is to learn to support myself in such a way that I can be alone without being lonely. And I can learn to feel my connection with all of life. So this is the practice, and I'd like to offer you 3 different ways perhaps to explore this. One is to feel yourself connected with all of life. So you may try some of these examples. So you could think of a tree that you like, or maybe the next time you're out on a walk, go and look for one that calls you. And become mindful and think about how much this tree is giving us. It's giving us fresh air, it's giving us shade, it's giving us wood, and even medicine. So every tree supports my life. And this picture that my out-breath is the tree's in-breath. And to really carry this picture of how we are there for each other. I need the tree and the tree needs me in some way too. Or you may want to think of an object that you see every day. It could be perhaps a spoon or a plate, and maybe consider how this object came about and how many people have been involved so that you can use this object today. So this is one thing you may do, or perhaps you can create a short mantra for yourself and maybe learn them by heart and remind yourself often. For example, I am loved and supported by all of life. And you may just hold this sentence, this phrase in your mind and just repeat it on those days when you feel the pain of loneliness. Or I'm safely held in the beautiful web of connection called life. Another example, I'm always connected to the magnificent flow of life and guided by the wisdom of heaven and earth. So use one of those or make up your own and carry this in your heart space for your own support. And to close, I would like to read for you a beautiful blessing of solitude. It's one of my favorite pieces of writing from this book of Celtic wisdom. A blessing of solitude. May you recognize in your life the presence, power and light of your soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul in its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythm of the universe. May you have respect for your own individuality and difference. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of your life there is something beautiful, good, and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which creation sees you in every moment. Plant your rose straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will keep you strong if you give her love and care.